2026 isn't waiting for you. It isn't slowing down, it isn't negotiating, and it isn't asking for permission. This year will reward those who move and leave behind those who hesitate. Because at the end of every excuse, every delay, every doubt, one truth remains: you owe it to you. Not to the expectations of others, not to the fear of failure, not to the version of yourself that settled last year. You owe it to the version of you who knows you can do more, be more, become more. This is the year where your potential stops being a possibility and becomes a responsibility. 2026 will not change your life, you will. And the clock is already running. A man changes only when his reason becomes louder than his resistance. Every man carries a private battle inside him, a tension between who he is and who he knows he should be. That inner gap is not weakness, it is a signal, a compass pointing toward the life he keeps postponing. When a man refuses to stay the same, it's not pride or ego driving him. It's the quiet truth that settling feels far more painful than striving. The moment he acknowledges that truth, he begins to rise. A man grows when he realizes the people around him are affected by the standard he holds for himself. From the eyes of a woman, his growth is not measured by perfection, but by direction. She sees his effort, his discipline, his willingness to confront his patterns, and that earns more respect than any illusion of strength. From the perspective of other men, refusing to stay the same is a declaration that complacency is not an option and that leading yourself is the first step toward leading anyone else. The world may try to convince a man to blend in, but everything in him knows that staying the same costs more than changing ever will. A man's life begins to shift the moment he confronts the story he has been pretending not to read. Every man carries a chapter he avoids, a memory, a mistake, a disappointment, or a truth that feels too heavy to face. But unaddressed stories don't disappear. They quietly shape decisions, reactions, and the limits a man places on himself. The courage to rewrite that story is not about erasing the past, but about reclaiming authorship. When a man finally names what he's been avoiding, he stops living in reaction and starts living with intention. A man becomes stronger when he understands how his hidden story affects the people who believe in him. From a woman's perspective, his willingness to rewrite the parts he once hid signals emotional maturity and safety. She doesn't need him flawless, she needs him honest with himself. From the perspective of other men, rewriting the avoided story is the mark of someone who refuses to be ruled by old wounds or outdated narratives. It becomes a powerful example that growth is not a performance, but a responsibility. When a man rewrites the story he once avoided, he steps into a future no longer dictated by the ghosts of his past. A man discovers his true power the moment he realizes the world's expectations are far lower than his own potential. Society will always ask for the minimum: show up, get by, be average. But a man's inner voice knows when he's capable of more. When he demands more from himself, he stops performing for approval and starts striving for alignment. This isn't about pressure, it's about integrity. It's the quiet discipline of choosing the harder right over the easier, comfortable path. Not because anyone is watching, but because he refuses to betray the standard he holds within. A man deepens his impact when he understands how his self-imposed standard shapes the people who rely on his steadiness. From a woman's perspective, a man who pushes himself with purpose creates a sense of trust and security, not through perfection, but through consistency. She sees the intention behind his effort and feels safe in the presence of a man who leads himself before trying to lead anyone else. From the perspective of other men, demanding more from oneself becomes a form of silent influence, a reminder that real strength is measured not by comparison but by commitment. When a man raises his own bar, he becomes the kind of man others can count on, and more importantly, the kind of man he can count on himself. A man begins to transform the moment he understands that comfort is the quiet enemy of every future he dreams about. Comfort has a way of convincing a man that tomorrow will offer the same opportunities as today, but momentum requires movement, especially when it's inconvenient. When a man chooses progress over ease, he shifts from passively hoping life will improve to actively shaping it. The small daily decisions he makes, getting up earlier, pushing one more rep, starting the project he's been avoiding, become the invisible engine that pulls him into the man he knows he can be. A man gains depth and respect when he realizes that his relationship with discomfort influences how others experience him. From a woman's perspective, a man who embraces momentum becomes dependable because he shows he can withstand friction without folding. She sees resilience, not stubbornness, direction, not chaos. From the perspective of other men, choosing momentum every day becomes a mark of discipline and credibility. It signals that he is not governed by impulse or laziness, but by purpose. When a man trades comfort for momentum, he becomes the person who can be trusted with responsibility, challenge, and growth simply because he has proven he can trust himself first. A man's future is shaped the moment he realizes his energy is his most valuable currency. Time matters, yes, but energy determines the quality of that time, the decisions he makes, the battles he chooses, and the standards he holds. When a man protects his energy, he becomes intentional about what he allows into his mind, his schedule, and his emotional space. He starts filtering out the noise, the distractions, and the relationships that drain him. Protecting energy is not about isolation. It is about alignment. It is choosing what strengthens him over what slowly erodes him. A man grows stronger when he understands that his energy is not just his own. Its impact radiates into the lives of the people he loves. From a woman's perspective, a man who guards his energy becomes a source of emotional steadiness. She feels the difference when he is mentally present rather than mentally scattered, when he invests instead of merely reacts. She values a man who takes care of his mind and spirit because it means he is capable of taking care of the relationship as well. A woman doesn't need a man who is tirelessly available. She needs a man who is intentionally whole. A man becomes more respect. Among other men, when he refuses to waste energy on drama, competition, or ego battles, they recognize the discipline it takes to stay focused while the world pulls him in 100 directions. Protecting energy becomes a quiet signal that he is building something meaningful, something that requires clarity, purpose, and emotional discipline. When a man treats his energy as the foundation of his future, he elevates his decisions, his relationships, and ultimately the direction of his entire life. A man steps into a new level of life the moment he understands that goals don't transform him. He must transform into the man capable of carrying them. Every ambition he has, every outcome he desires is waiting on a version of him he has not yet become. Goals are not rewards, they are responsibilities. They demand discipline, clarity, emotional control, and self-respect. When a man finally sees that his goals are not out of reach, but simply out of alignment with who he is today, he stops chasing quick wins and starts building the identity that can sustain long-term success. A man grows exponentially when he realizes that becoming this future version of himself requires letting go of the habits, emotions, and coping mechanisms that once protected him. From a woman's perspective, this evolution is deeply attractive because it shows growth rooted in self-awareness rather than ego. She doesn't admire the man who pretends he already has it all figured out. She admires the man who actively becomes better, step by step, with humility and consistency. She sees the way he takes responsibility for his triggers, his reactions, and his choices, not to impress her, but to master himself. That self-mastery creates a sense of stability and trust that no superficial confidence can imitate. A man earns the respect of other men when he proves that discipline is more powerful than talent and character is more valuable than image. They recognize when his actions shift from impulsive to intentional, when he starts making decisions the future version of him would approve of, rather than the current version finds comfortable. In the world of men, becoming the person your goals require is not about loud declarations. It is about quiet consistency. It is about showing up even when nobody is watching, pushing forward, even when progress feels invisible, and aligning every choice with the man he is committed to becoming. When a man steps into that identity, his goals no longer feel distant. They feel inevitable.